asked to speak on the topic of black and brown unity, one I have spoken and acted on before. As a revolutionary historian, I find it necessary to start my statement with a brief historical comparative analysis of an African Latin American civilization. The latter I can trace my indigenous roots to, as I consider indigenous and North African peoples brown or black, the former being the first civilization on Earth, predating even the Mesopotamian, although it was not called Mesopotamia originally, since that is Greek in origin, and the Greeks came much later to the region of North Africa and the Middle East. It was thus called Babylonia. The Egyptian rulers, at one point before the Greek arrival, were darker skinned because they intermarried with the Nubians, and they were indeed the first, just as the first human beings were dark skinned. DNA in particular has also proven I have traces of North African roots, where the Egyptian civilization I'm specifically referring to indeed is located. However, it is more probable I'm related to the cousins of the Egyptians from that line that is in what is now Morocco, as people from that region controlled Spain for 8 centuries and intermingled with the Iberian population. Nevertheless, I must first admit a bias. Unlike in the study of communications, which I studied apart from history, the word bias in historical language has no negative connotation. I am indeed biased in favor of the oppressed or downtrodden, and there is historical tradition of this in this country from Howard Zinn to his younger contemporary Michael Parenti. So let me state that gold, which is commonly considered by Europeans as a symbol of wealth or prestige, meant something else to the Inca and Egyptian civilizations. Both built pyramids to a sun god. Both saw gold as ceremonial object symbolic of the sun. The Egyptian sun god was called Ra or Re, and the Inca sun god Inti. It was not till later, and largely what is called Peru today, that the Spanish turned those objects into blocks and filled their pockets with it, making wealth or prestige, or sent it to Spain or the Vatican as their cut for their support of their extension of the Inquisition to what was later called the Americas, or what the Incas called Pachacamac, which means Mother Earth. Like other tribes, the Incas did not see the earth as something to plunder or real estate, but the earth and environment as something sacred. Gold to the Incas was the set of the sun, and silver the tears of the moon goddess. Likewise, in Egypt, gold did not symbolize wealth or prestige until the Greek influence later. The Incas had 3 laws, which were similar to laws repeated to me by Seminole chiefs here in Florida after I went as a water protector to Standing Rock in North Dakota in late 2016. Those Seminoles who know their history, who know how they defeated the U.S. with runaway slaves, and who never sold out, are the ones I worked with. These laws in the Inca language, Quechua, were Amakeya, Amasuya, Amalula, which means do not steal, do not lie, and do not kill. These are the first 3 violations introduced by the Spanish conquerors or imperialists of those times. What was the first Inca town the Spanish invaded? Well, it was the same town my grandmother, who had Inca blood in her veins, was born in. The same town the former president of Peru, ousted in a U.S. imperial coup, Pedro Castillo, was born in. It is in the north of Peru, between the jungle and the Sierra. This town is called Cajamarca. Cajamarca, unlike Cusco, the Inca capital, has no remaining Inca structures except one, the chamber where Atahualpa, the last Inca ruler, was held captive by those greedy Spaniards. This is because the Spanish took pride in that being the spot they did their shameful act, so they made sure it was not destroyed. In Cusco, there was such an abundance of structures and indigenous people who remained to this day that the Spanish could not dare destroy those structures. Atahualpa was clever, but was arrogant and underestimated the Spanish. He had just defeated his half-brother in a civil war that started from Atahualpa's father dying from a mysterious disease and splitting his lands between his sons. This disease was probably spread from Mesoamerica from Europeans already in that region. The Spanish, led by an illiterate conqueror named Pizarro, took advantage of divisions to plunder the land, just like Cortez, Pizarro's cousin, took advantage of divisions in Mexico earlier to attack the Aztecs. Atahualpa, while held captive, noticed the Spanish lust for silver and gold. He made friends with Spaniards like Hernando Soto. The Soto taught Atahualpa how to play chess. In fact, when they killed Atahualpa, they made sure De Soto was out of town. However, when he returned, he still took part in stealing Atahualpa's wealth and used this to later go on and invade Florida, and he died somewhere in what is now the southeast U.S., defeated by the natives there. Atahualpa sent his runners in strict orders with the cooperation of his generals, as the Incas had no horses, to the 4 corners of his domain to fill 2 chambers where he was held of gold and silver in exchange for his freedom. To give you an idea of the effort it took to bring these metals, the Incas' lands were extremely vast and included, in at least portions, the modern-day countries from north to south of Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, Bolivia, Argentina, and Chile. Once Atahualpa fulfilled the ransom, the Spanish concocted a story that one of Atahualpa's generals was going to free him, and they assassinated him. This story reminds me of Venezuelan ambassador Alex Saab, who worked with Uhuru and others to help free Fonley late last year, when he was held in Cape Verde on U.S. orders. The U.S. Empire sent ships to threaten that island to keep him captive till he could be sent to Miami, under the excuse that the Russians or Venezuelans were going to rescue him, also concocted, as the Venezuelans were using legal means to try to free their diplomat. I bring up these historical analogies to bring to the present and to show that there is a long tradition of resistance, true resistance, whether it was Egyptians fighting Greeks or Incas fighting Spanish, such as the rebellions led by the Inca Tupac Amaru the First and the Second, of which Tupac Amaru Shakur, a rapper product of Black Panthers, was named after, and that these traditions continue. It is important to note that people of Inca descent reject European phrases like royalty in reference to their historical leaders. And like the Peruvian intellectual Martiregui said, born in the same town my grandfather, Moquegua, the Inca system was in fact socialistic, without any European influence. In fact, if we look at Egypt, those who built the Egyptian pyramids were Egyptians, although some of them could have been of the Hebrew Egyptian minority, and were paid with currency and given food and beer. There is even an instance of pyramid workers going on strike till they were given bigger portions of beer. The treatment of Egyptian workers for those times was quite good. We cannot take the myths in the Bible as historical fact in regards to those pyramids being built by Hebrew slaves. I want to include this statement by stressing we cannot have unity without solidarity, without education, revolutionary education. We cannot achieve this unity either. Asata Shakur, herself in an autobiography she wrote from exile in Cuba, that the Black Panthers needed to have this revolutionary education. Many of the leaders that could have taught it, however, were being shot or imprisoned by the U.S. Empire, and that she was constructively critical from within to try to better the Panthers before she had to go into hiding, a target of the U.S. imperial regime. All movements that seek unity and revolutionary common aims must be internally critical in order to better themselves. And I hope this discussion this evening can help us progress in this regard.